ever just find yourself going down like, oh man, these personality quizzes.
Yeah.
Like, am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? What kind of bread am I?
Totally, totally.
Yeah, and they're fun, right?
They are fun.
But they only tell like kind of half the story. That's like looking in a mirror by yourself.
Exactly.
Without real life, we're not just interacting with our reflection, are we?
Absolutely not. Yeah. Our personalities don't exist in isolation. It's all about how we kind of bump up against each other and harmonize.
Right. And that's where this deep dive gets super interesting. We're going to be unpacking this idea called the PAMatrix.
Okay.
And it comes from a blog post by Natarjan Ganasan. This is from Nat's Journal, March of 2017.
Okay.
And it totally changed how I thought about personality.
I can imagine. So what's fascinating about, well, Nat's take on this is that he really focuses on the interaction piece.
Yeah.
And he even specifically calls it out as being so crucial for relationships, whether it's work, family, you name it.
So, okay, PAMatrix sounds kind of intense.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Yeah. So think about it like a simple 2x2 grid.
Okay.
Right? You're on one side.
Got it.
The other person is on the other. The top row is how you see yourselves.
Okay.
And the bottom row is how you actually perceive each other.
Okay.
So that creates kind of these 4 boxes, and each box represents a different aspect of perception.
Okay, so I'm visualizing this grid. Walk me through this.
So let's start with X. X is your self-assessment.
Okay.
So maybe you're all about that ENFJ energy, the charismatic leader, always bringing people together.
Love it.
Right. So that's your X in the matrix.
Okay, but I mean, I don't walk around with ENFJ stamped on my forehead.
Right, exactly. And that brings us to Y, parenthesis X.
Okay.
And that is how you think other people see you.
Okay.
So do you think people see you as that same ENFJ or maybe something different?
Okay, so now I'm picturing like 2 boxes filled in on my side.
Uh-huh.
One for how I see myself, one for how I think other people see me.
Exactly.
What about on the other side of this grid?
Yeah, so that's where things get really, really interesting.
Okay.
So the Y is all about how the other person actually sees you.
Oh, okay.
So maybe they pick up on something totally different. Let's say they see you as more of an ESTP.
Okay.
That adventurous, bold, living in the moment type.
Which, I mean, that's pretty different.
Totally different vibe.
From the whole ENFJ thing.
Exactly. And that mismatch right there,
yeah,
that's where things can get a little tricky.
Okay.
Because it's like you're speaking 2 totally different personality languages.
That makes sense. I've definitely had those moments where I'm just like, you are reading me completely wrong.
We've all been there. We've all been there. And that's why Nat's example in the blog post is so relatable.
Okay.
He talks about somebody who, they identify as an ENFJ.
Okay.
But the Y person in their life, maybe it's a coworker or something, they see them as this ESTP instead.
Interesting.
So just like we were saying.
Okay, that makes sense. But we've only talked about 3 boxes.
Yeah.
What about the 4th box?
Oh, the 4th box.
The X, parenthesis Y.
That one's a real mind bender.
Okay.
Because it's not just about how you see them, but how you think they see you seeing them.
Okay. Whoa, hold on.
It's very meta.
Things just got very meta.
It's like a hall of mirrors.
Yeah.
Right? But so stick with me here. Imagine this. You're trying to figure out how they see you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But you're also trying to imagine what they believe you think about them.
Ooh.
Right.
That is a lot.
It's like a game of double guessing. But understanding this layer adds this whole other nuance to it.
So, okay, I think I'm following this whole hall of mirrors thing.
Yeah.
But this is getting a little too theoretical for me.
Okay.
How does this PAMatrix actually play out in real life?
So think about those everyday situations where personalities collide.
Okay.
Right? So picture yourself in a job interview. You're trying to project that confident go-getter energy.
Right.
Maybe even channel your inner ESTP, right? Mm-hmm. But the interviewer, they're looking at your perfectly formatted resume. They're hearing your carefully considered answers.
Yeah.
And they're seeing someone more structured, maybe more introverted, maybe even an ISTJ.
And that's a PAMatrix mismatch right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Suddenly that dream job feels very far away.
It does. It does.
Or how about I don't know, you're on a first date, you're trying to be all charming and spontaneous.
Right.
But they're picking up on something totally different.
Yeah. Yeah, they see you as distant or too cool for school.
Right. And it's
yeah, and those mismatches, they can create friction.
Yeah, it's that whole we're talking but we're not connecting.
Exactly.
But it's amplified because it's like we're working from two different personality scripts.
Exactly. And it's not about anyone being right or wrong.
Right, exactly. And that's what's so hard about it.
It's so tricky.
Because you're like, I'm not wrong.
Right. It's not about blame.
Yeah.
It's about awareness. And I think what the PAMatrix does is it helps us understand why those disconnects happen.
Okay.
Right? It's not about labeling ourselves or others. It's just recognizing that, like, our perceptions shape our realities.
So how can we actually like use this awareness? I know Nat talked about different outcomes like within the PAMatrix.
Yeah.
We've got high alignment, we've got mismatches. What happens in those scenarios?
So when there's high alignment, it's like you said, we're hitting that sweet spot. Your self-perception, how you think others see you, and how they actually see you are all kind of in sync.
Okay.
And guess what? Usually that means smoother communication, better understanding, stronger relationships.
So basically if I think I'm like a rock star, ENFJ, and everybody else agrees, like we're golden.
I mean, ideally, yes.
Okay.
But I will say, even with alignment, right, there still can be those nuances.
Okay.
And I think the beauty of the PAMatrix is it encourages us to be curious about those nuances.
Okay.
Right? So it's not about achieving perfect alignment. It's more so about understanding and appreciating those differences in how we perceive each other.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's not about trying to like force everybody into the same box, but it's about understanding, oh, this is why you might put me in a different box than the one I see myself in.
Exactly. Yeah, and even mismatches can actually be opportunities for growth.
Okay.
Right. So let's say you're constantly clashing with a coworker, right? And you apply this PAMatrix.
Okay.
And you realize, okay, well, I'm seeing myself as this really supportive teammate, but maybe they're seeing me as overly assertive.
Ouch. But good to know, right?
Yeah, but that's good to know because now you can adjust your communication style to be a bit more collaborative.
Right.
It's about finding that middle ground where you can both feel heard and understood.
So it's like having this like secret decoder ring for like social interactions.
Right. You start to see these hidden dynamics and you can kind of adjust your approach accordingly.
And this is where that whole image building thing comes in, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not about being fake, but it's just about being aware of how your actions might be perceived.
Yeah.
And making these conscious choices about, okay, what's the image that I'm projecting?
It's less about faking it till you make it. It's more about understanding the stage directions and playing your role accordingly with intention.
Exactly. If, you tend to come off as a little intense in your emails, maybe soften your tone a bit.
Right.
Be mindful of those subtle cues that you send out there and how they're received on the other end.
So, okay, we went deep on this whole PAMatrix thing.
We did.
How it works, the good, the bad, the potentially awkward.
Yeah.
But like, before we wrap up, what are the like big takeaways for our listeners?
I think the biggest one is that personality, it's not this fixed thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like you take one quiz and boom, that's it, you're done.
Right.
It's more fluid. It's like a dance more than a statue.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. So we're always moving, we're adapting to our partner in the dance.
And those partners are like everybody we interact with?
The people we interact with every day?
Yeah.
They influence us, we influence them. It's a two-way street.
Which I think is like, that's the big aha of the PAMatrix.
Really?
Like, oh, that's why I click with this person effortlessly.
Yes.
And I keep hitting a wall with this other person.
Exactly. It's a game changer for relationships, and not just romantic relationships, but at work, with your friends, even with family.
Right. Like all of a sudden these like misunderstandings have a framework.
Totally.
It's not just, oh, they just don't get me.
Right. Exactly. It's not that.
It's more nuanced than that.
Yeah. It's more so realizing that they do get you.
Okay.
But they're getting you through their own lens.
Okay.
Which is shaped by their experiences, their assumptions, all that.
Which is where I guess that whole like image building thing can be really helpful.
Yes. And it's not about being manipulative. It's just about self-awareness.
Right.
Like if you tend to come off as very intense, maybe dial it back a notch in certain situations, it's not about being inauthentic. It's about being strategic with your communication.
Right. It's about understanding, okay, based on who I'm interacting with,
yes,
I might need to fine-tune my approach a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? Nat actually suggests something really interesting in the post.
Yeah, okay.
He encourages people to actually try this out with someone.
Oh.
Like have an open conversation about how you perceive each other.
Oh, wow. That's brave.
It is brave, but it could be amazing or terrifying or both.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
But I think the key is to approach it with curiosity.
Okay.
Not judgment.
Right.
Think of it as like a fun experiment in mutual understanding.
I love it.
Yeah.
And who knows, you might even strengthen your bond because of it.
You very well could.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I think the PAMatrix reminds us that we're all just trying to navigate this crazy dance of personalities.
It is a dance. It is a dance.
It is. And a little understanding can go a really long way.
This has been so eye-opening, listeners. We want to hear from you. Have you had a PAMatrix moment in your own life?
Tell us.
Head over to our social media, share your stories. We would love to hear them. And until next time, remember, it's all a matter of perception.
That's right.
Keep those lenses clean.
Keep them clean.
Happy deep diving, everybody.
Happy deep diving.